The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the podcast platform, its affiliates, or even the hosts. The information provided is for general informational purposes only and should not be taken as legal, financial, or professional advice. The host and guests are not liable for any errors of omission in the content, nor for any losses, injuries, or damages arising from the use of the information provided. Listeners are encouraged to seek professional advice relevant to their specific circumstances.
Are we live? What's good, great people? I am Ezel Moon, and I have a special guest in the building today. Tonight's guest is someone whose story reminds us that laughter can live in the same place as adversity. He's a comedian, storyteller, motivational humorist, and my frat brother. But more importantly, he's someone who has faced life-altering challenges and still found a way to turn pain into purpose. After surviving a stroke, he didn't retreat from the stage. He leaned into it, finding humor even in the hospital bed and transforming that experience into a message that resonates with audiences everywhere. His comedy reminds us that sometimes the punchline isn't just about making people laugh. It's about helping people survive. Tonight, we're talking about resilience, perspective, friendship, and the deeper meaning behind laughter. Please help me welcome me, comedian, stroke survivor, and my frat brother, Brandon Dee.
What's up?
What's good with the Qs? Yo, you know what I need to do? I need to have a what's it called? I need to have like a track for like applause, or you know what I'm saying, something like, just because I really put time and energy in typing out the intro. I need to at least hear a round of applause, whenever people come on stage, something, you know what I mean?
I'm with you. Now, I appreciate that intro though. You definitely made me feel like I was somebody. How Jesse Jackson say, I am somebody.
I am somebody. RP dog, man.
Absolutely.
But I truly do believe you are somebody, though. It takes a lot to go through the things that you've gone through, and power forward, and not retreat from life, and not let life detract you from your next stage. Speaking of stages, you've opened up for B. Simone.
Yeah.
No. Tell me about sharing stages with those with that type of comedian and what it did for your comedy style.
Well, I think the more important part, I could tap on that, but the more important part is how that came to be. Man, I got connected with some entrepreneurs. I've been doing stand-up comedy since 2011. Got away from it for a little while, becoming a firefighter. Then I got connected with some people after I was released from the fire department. And I learned a lot through coaching and through mentorship, and something that they harped on a lot, which is something that you hear majority of influencers and business coaches talk about today is creating value. So I read this book called The Go-Giver, and in the book, it talked about just that, creating value. And I saw B. Simone posted on her Instagram that she was going on tour. And I said, you know what? I have her number in my phone because we did an event where I was behind the scenes production, and I was kind of like assisting. And I had her number for about 3 years. Never used it, right? I would just hit her up. Hey, B, how you doing? Hope everything's okay. And I said, you know what? Let me just take a shot. Let me take what I'm reading in this book and go for it. So that's what I did. I reached out to her. I said, hey, I saw on Instagram that you're about to go on tour. Do you need help, writing or punching anything up? She was like, yeah, let's meet on FaceTime. So we got on FaceTime that very next day. I helped her punch up some stuff. I didn't write anything for her. We just went over some of her material. I was like, hey, you could probably try this. You can move that. Oh, I like that. Right. Spent about an hour on FaceTime with her. And afterwards, she said, look at my schedule and let me know if there's any dates that you want to hop on. And I said, well, Birmingham, Stardome. I had been trying to get into the Stardome for about 10 years up to that point. And I was like, I want to do the Stardome. So a door that had been closed to me for about 10 years, just because I put myself out there to provide value the best way I could, boom, that door was open for me. So ever since that moment, I've really applied that to a lot of how I moved in the industry since. Is like, how can I provide value? Of course, I want to blow up. Of course, I want somebody to put that battery in my back and take me to the next level. But I have to think unselfishly and think, what can I do to help that person and their mission? And that's just how I've been approaching those connections and those relationships since then.
Dog, it's so interesting that you say that because you have a quote, I where you there was a piece of content that you created where you said you have to mind your mind because of the fact that your thoughts tend to become reality. You were thinking of, oh, hey, how good would it be, because you knew people that were working with Ti, and as far as the haha, I forgot my haha was and
Hi,
you knew
Mafia.
two haha mafia, I apologize, and you knew two of them, and you were like, well, man, well, how cool would it be if they would have reached out to me, but eventually somebody did reach out to you. May not have been that particular opportunity, but opportunity presented itself. Talk to us about times in your life where you spoke more things into existence for your future, and what are you speaking into existence today?
Yeah, I could give you a recent example, and I can give you an example some years back. Example number one, I was looking at on Facebook, saw one of my buddies from high school, and I just randomly thought about the young lady that he dated back in high school, and I was like, I wonder how she's doing. The very next day, I ran into her. I hadn't seen her in 15 years.
Wow.
Very next day, ran into her. But one that's even freakier. I remember when DC Young Fly first got going, and he was really blowing up online. I'm a hater by nature. It's just I have a natural propensity to just hate, right? And I saw DC, and I'm like, man, he ain't funny. Yeah, he ain't funny. But then he got on Wild 'N Out, and I found myself dying laughing watching him, and I'm like, all right, he funny. And I said to myself, if I ever get a chance to meet him, I'm going to apologize. That very next day, I'm out driving Uber. Guess who gets in my car?
Don't tell me it's DC on Fly, dog.
Young Fly. The very next day.
Wow.
It blew my mind. So I told him, as soon as he got in the car, I said, hey, man, I owe you an apology. He was like, for real? What for? I said, because I watched you from afar. And I saw him when he was coming through the ranks of stand-up comedy. He was doing Cloud 9, hosted by Tyler Chronicles. Like, I watched him move in the stand-up world, and I saw him move online. And I said, bro, you are funny. And I was hating. I was hating when I first saw you, but you're very funny. And he said, man, it takes a real one to apologize. So, I gave him that little front driver seat.
Yeah.
Give him a little front. Yeah. And he was like, boom. Yeah. And that was it. But it was, I've had so many of those moments happen to where it has made me really say, Brandon, your thoughts are powerful. Like where you are is because that's where you think you are, or where you think you should be. Excuse me. And if I'm going to go to the next level, or as I go to the next level, it's going to start with the way that I think. Your thoughts create the frequency creates the actions and behaviors, the actions behavior creates the character creates the opportunity. So it all starts with the way that we think, the way that we see ourselves, how do we talk to ourselves. And now that I've known that, but now that I'm really practicing, I'm only speaking what I want. Even when I'm talking with my wife and she's like, well, that's not realistic. That's not how. I'm like, hey, I'm talking as though it's a perfect world. I'm only speaking in perfect world scenarios. So that's been my approach most recently.
Give me, you know, in this day and age, right? Especially with so much content in regards to marriages and so much couple content. What do you feel like are some of the pillars for your marriage that kind of keep things rolling smoothly in your household?
Man, oh man, that's one of those questions. I'm like, man, I wish you would have gave me that one ahead of time. that's such a great question. That's such a great question. I like to tell people, all right, so let's think about someone like what's his name, Derek Johnson.
You talking about the one that was man that was always telling other people about how terrible of a man that they are, but he was the one that was cheating on his wife, or
Boom,
the or
boom.
the light or the light skinned dude that was and the light skinned girl that just recently got divorced. One of them's
Both,
name is there. Both.
both
Okay.
examples. Both
Both of
examples.
them.
What where I think a lot of us go wrong is that we idolize those couples.
Yes.
And even the people, they kind of put themselves in position to be judged because they come off as though they got it all together. The beauty about my relationship with my wife, we're not afraid to tell you like, hey man, we jacked up.
Mm,
We're jacked up. And we're only together because we love each other.
right.
Like she's had ample opportunity to leave me, and not because of infidelity, just because how we view life sometimes doesn't match, right? Like we may grow at different rates in different spaces, but eventually we kind of always come back to the same conclusion, right? We kind of get back to equilibrium every time. So I think transparency. Like my wife, we have a relationship where we're transparent enough with each other to say where we are in the season that we are, and we both have gone on a self-development journey, independently and collectively. So it helps us be more patient with one another. Like she's really patient with me, more patient than what any other woman probably would be if they're looking at like social norms or whatnot, because I don't fit in the box of social norms.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the pillars would be. It would be patience, transparency, and we love to laugh.
Mm,
We laugh, 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 laugh. That's one of my favorite things to do. And her favorite thing to do is make me laugh. Like if she can make me laugh, it just takes her energy to a whole nother level. So yeah, man, laughing through the hard times, laughing through the pain, being transparent, and just being incredibly patient with each other.
mm. I think that dog is something about comedy. You know what I mean? It's something about just the because I truly and honestly believe that we innately as human beings want to be in a happier disposition than a sad one. I know for a fact that there are people that walk this earth and they enjoy their sadness and they are addicted to their negative emotions. But I truly believe that we want, like, our default is to enjoy, happiness, and to be able to laugh through things with someone else in this world is it's so beautiful to me, man. It's so beautiful to me. Like, and I appreciate the word that you gave me, even though I know I just sprung this on you with that. I appreciate that word that you shared. Sincerely, sincerely. They
Yeah.
might need to clip that one.
Well,
Um,
I'll just say, just to add to it, because it's like money, how money compounds.
right,
The longer you're with somebody, the longer the funny compounds,
right.
because you start to develop your own language, your own references, your own inside jokes. So there's things that she and I can laugh at that most of the time people have no idea what we're talking about. Sometimes if you watch a lot of Martin, you know what we're talking about, right?
Rhythm spoons.
Hey, we were laughing about that last week. We were just laughing about that last week. Yeah. Oh my god, because we were actually talking about somebody else, and we was like, man, he's slow. He was like, rhythm spoon. Yeah, so it's certain things that sometimes other people get it, but yeah, we have compound laughs just from spending so much time with each other.
That's good. We love a good compound laughter. You know, dog, I gotta go into some of the things that, more of my research that I've done. You've described yourself as someone who found the punchline even in a hospital bed. So I asked you, what does humor allow us to see about life that seriousness sometimes hides?
I remember when I lived in LA, and this is before I even knew I was going to be having kids that early. But as I was thinking about lessons I wanted to share with them, one of the first things I remember was saying, before you go to God, laugh. Because even though God accepts you having a heavy heart, sometimes you don't always have the clarity of mind to communicate with him what you want to communicate with such a heavy heart. So, and I was, heavy in the comedy streets. And that was a lesson that I wanted to give the kids. But as you go through life, can I say that that's a lesson I gave? No. I'm going to God many of days, many of nights with a heavy heart. But what I can say, in the moments where I recognize, oh, you're feeling dark, you're feeling gloomy, maybe you need to take a step away from the serious and go laugh at something, right? I used to, whenever I was in my depressed states, I would go to News Anchor Fails on YouTube. Some of the funniest stuff you ever seen in your life.
Yo, you remember the one with the old dude? He started cussing because that bug that flew into his mouth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's probably one of the ones that set it off for me. That's one of the ones that made me say, oh, there's something here. But like, you could watch an hour of that, spirit lifted. And you're not necessarily laughing at anybody. It's just you're laughing at the reactions, you're laughing at the flops, you're laughing at the weird things that just randomly happen. And I've done that enough I haven't done it in quite some time, but at one point I did it enough to where it could pick me out of that negative space long enough to go do the work that I needed to do to keep myself from going back into that space. So yeah, that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that take way more than you know. Way more than you know.
Wow.
Prior to us going to commercial, I do want to get into this. Many people define themselves by what happens to them. And you have an amazing title for your comedy right now that I've keep laughing. But after your stroke, how did you decide who Brandon Dee would be moving forward?
I don't even think it was a decision afterward. I'm gonna use the word post haste, right? Is that how to?
Yeah,
Was that okay?
That's a good one. That was a good one. You did that.
And that boy been reading. That
boy good. That
boy good. But yeah, so it wasn't necessarily a decision after the fact. I remember being, and I talk about this on stage, but I remember being in the ambulance, my second one, because I went to the first hospital. They had to give me an experimental medication and send me further north because there was no neurologist at that hospital, and I could potentially bleed out. So just in case, they sent me somewhere else. And I remember headed to that next hospital. And things are calm at this point, but still is like that lingering thought in your head, like, man, I could bleed out on the brain. Wouldn't even know it. Like, I could die in the back. And by the time they open it, they're like, we didn't make it. All right, what you want to eat for lunch? Right. I know the vibes. I used to be a firefighter, so I know how this goes.
Right.
But I remember saying to having a conversation with God, I said, hey, if you let me survive this, all the dreams, goals, thoughts, ideas, aspirations that I have, I'm no longer going to hoard them. I'm going to empty the clip. So I have loads of stand-up comedy bits that I want to do. I probably have an equal amount of motivational talks that I want to give, right? Like movies that I've watched that I'm like, oh, there's a message, things that have happened to me where it's a funny, embarrassing thing, but I can find a message. And I have so many of these that I've just never put out because it's like, am I a motivational speaker? Am I a comedian? No, I'm just me. I'm just me. And I accept that I'm just me. And in the back of that ambulance, headed to the second hospital, I said, if you keep me, I'm gonna give it everything I got. Like I'm putting it all out. It doesn't matter the packaging. I'm just gonna find a way to get it all out. And that's what I've been doing. So if you look at my IG, I on title says comedian, but the way I view myself as a motivational humorist. I want to be funny. I want to be cutting edge, down, raw, and dirty funny, but at the same time, the value that I provide is having these kind of conversations where I can share real life things and I can talk about mindset. I can talk about perspective. I can talk about paradigm shifts, just packaged in funny candy. But I want to make sure that I could provide the medicine. In the nutshell, to answer the question, I remade that commitment on my way to that second hospital. And, by the time I got there, I was already thinking about the jokes.
It's a blessing to have you here, dog. Sincerely and truly. It is a blessing to be sitting and speaking with you today. And
Thank you.
I know, even you may not have known, you may not know, but even in how you've answered some of these questions, you've spoken the word over my life. When we come back after this commercial, we will continue with this interview with the motivation humorist himself, Brandon Dee. Commercial.
WSAN Radio, the soul of America and beyond. Join DJ Ron G and the WSAN crew every day for the Ron G Morning Show, Funk Friday, and Gospel Brunch Sunday. From local heroes to national guests, WSAN Radio connects you to the pulse of our community. One song, one story, one soul at a time. WSAN Radio, where music, motivation, and movement come together. Streaming live, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and WSANradio.com.
Got me together with this two-piece. It's the good leggings, no see-through business.
And we are back. Thank y'all so much to our sponsors. for today. And if in fact you would like to have your commercial on our page on any of our shows, please reach out to the UnitedFrontNetwork.com. All right, team, I gotta go into this really quickly. Um, and honestly, I don't even think this might. Well, it's up to you on how quick you want to answer this question, right? Um, some people say comedy is tragedy plus time. You turn tragedy into comedy almost immediately. What does that say about how you process life?
Um, Funny is always my first go-to,
Mm,
and I've always been that way. I could recall being at funerals, and I'm like holding myself back because the way I'm just what I'm seeing is so funny to me, and
right,
I'm like really rocking, trying to keep myself from laughing because I don't want to be disrespectful.
right.
But that's always my first go-to. Is what's the funny in it, and it's just my programming. It's just my programming. So for me and my situation, I got out of the hospital on a Wednesday. I was on stage on Thursday, very next night, talking about it. And for me, it's so crazy. I remember being in LA and someone said comedians are the worst because we love it when bad things happen to us
Mm,
because we know it's material. It's almost a cheat code to be a comedian because majority of the time, even if you're depressed, you still kind of find the fun in being depressed because you're looking at the depression almost an outer body experience. So my situation, I was looking at everything that was happening. The nurses were coming in every 30 minutes. They wouldn't really let you sleep. It got to like, so you have to hold your arm up, open your eyes, pick up your leg, pick up your other leg, throw up your other arm, right? It got to a point where they weren't even telling me what to do anymore. I was right. And and even as I was doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this on stage. How can I do this on stage? Well, I'm gonna have to put the chair like this, but then I'm thinking, how do I act this out on stage? So yeah, just I process everything as a joke. But I also ask myself, okay, is there a message in it? Is there a message? And for me, people don't believe it when I say it, but the stroke literally was probably one of the best things to ever happen to me
mm,
because one, it uh, showed me that I had a medical condition I wasn't aware of, which is a PFO. It's a hole in your heart. So I had a blood clot that went through that hole, went to the right side of my brain, shut down the left side of my body. And I've had this my entire life. Little league football, high school football, D1 football, firefighter, pledge and frat. Had it my entire life. Back flips, front flips, like my entire life. I've been rough and rugged, doing a bunch of crazy stuff and never knew it. So it brought attention to a medical condition that I needed to know about. Um, but at the same time, it gave me it kind of gave me my soul back because I think for a while I was getting on stage trying to be funny for the sake of being funny, and I just couldn't. I had thoughts and ideas, and nothing was coming together. Then having a stroke, like I said, got out of hospital on Wednesday, got on stage Thursday. My guy Jordan Jackson, he's known me majority of my comedy career. He saw my set that night, and afterwards he said, "Man, I've known you maybe 10 years now, and I've seen you hundreds of times. That's the best I've ever seen you." First
wow.
off a stroke. And I think because there was a level of connectivity that I was missing that the stroke provided me. So, yeah, one of the best things that could happen.
In your expert opinion, right? Because you've been doing this for quite some time. Um, top five comedians.
This is just my personal list, correct?
Yeah, Brandon, and because I spit hot fire.
Myself off the list.
Yeah.
It's so funny because my daughter, I was like, "Who's your favorite comedian?" She was like, "You," right? I was like,
Wow.
I'll raise you well, but yeah, taking myself off the list, run it down based on the phases of comedy that I've gone through. So I
Ooh.
would say phase one would be Martin Lawrence.
Okay.
I was a little kid, rent a spoon, right?
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Just that my personality is 75% Martin Lawrence on that show.
Okay.
That's 75% of my personality, my mannerisms. I'm I'm Martin through and through.
It's funny that you say that because it even because even with sitting with you, right? I feel comfortable enough to like make little jokes as we're talking, and I truly and honestly believe that Martin, while on that show, literally brought out the funny in everybody that was because I mean there was so much that was improvised, right? I
Oh
really
yeah,
believe that he brought out the funny inside of everybody that was around him. But go ahead, dog.
I agree. I agree. He did. He did. So yeah, Martin. You know, when I saw Bad Boys, that's where I was like, this is what I want to do.
Mm,
Will Smith was a huge part of that as well, but he's not a comedian, so I'm not going to put him on the list.
right.
After that, I would say Kevin Hart. And I know that's a controversial take, but here's what it is. When I was in college and I had just had my second concussion, I knew I wasn't going to be playing football anymore. Like in my spirit, I knew I'm not playing ball anymore. I came across Kevin Hart's Seriously Funny.
Yeah.
And so when I was a little kid, I watched Martin, You So Crazy.
Yeah.
And then I watched Kevin Hart's Seriously Funny. And when I watched You So Crazy, I said, I want to do that when I grow up. When I watched Seriously Funny, I said, I gotta go do it. Like watching Kevin Hart Seriously Funny gave me, I was laughing, but it gave me anxiety at the same time. Because I felt a pull that I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I have to go do this now. It was almost like Kevin Hart challenged me from the stage of, hey, you see me living the life that you want to live. You know that it's real. You know it's available. You got to go do it now. So Kevin Hart would be my number two. When I lived in LA, uh, Los Angeles is very different from the South. So I was introduced to just different ways of thinking. And I started becoming more artsy fartsy. And I got into Richard Pryor, and I read Richard Pryor's book, uh, Prior Convictions, and I also watched his comedy special. It's on YouTube. Not a lot of people know this, but it's called Live and Smoking.
Yeah, dog. I know it. My man,
That
your first three
that
so
book,
far killing. Yeah, that
that
yeah.
that book, and that mini special just set the foundation for where my comedy would potentially go. While living in LA, I was on the scene and I met a guy by the name of David A. Arnold. David A. Arnold is a name that not a lot of people know about, unless you're in the industry or you just happen to be really, really hip to comedy. But David A. Arnold was a maestro on that stage. I mean, he was brilliant. When I moved home, I didn't have a relationship when I lived there, but when I moved back home, I got into his mentoring. It was ABC. What was ABC? It was his comedy class. I can't remember the name of it, but he had a stand-up comedy class that he would teach virtually. So I got on Skype. I was on Skype with David a couple of times, going through material. Even on my old computer, it still has a file that says bio for David, because he will have you write out your real life story, your real bio. Don't put in any punches, no funny stuff. Just write your real life story. And I remember him sitting down and reading my life bio. He was like, "Oh, this is funny. Oh, that's." He was like, "Oh, really?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. I don't know if I want to." He said, "The more embarrassing it is, the more you should tell it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right." So I watched David from afar. He was a writer, Tyler Perry. He wrote a bunch of other different shows. And then I saw where nobody knew him. he would do like this toilet tissue thing where he'd be like, credit bitches, right? So it's like I saw him just throw stuff at the wall, trying to find his lane in a digital space. Everybody knew him as the man on stage, but online, you got to blow up online, right? And I saw him figure it out. He started doing stuff with his wife, his kids. People started to gravitate to him. He got a comedy special called Fat Ballerina on Netflix. He did it. It was incredible. Then he came with a second comedy special. I can't remember the name, but he went home. He went to his hometown. I think it was Kansas City. And you just kind of watch. It was a documentary / comedy. And it was just like, wow. And he was selling out tours. And he was about to go on theaters. And then he passed away.
Oh.
And when he passed away, man, it broke my heart. And I remember because I was headed to Florida that following morning. And it was right around my daughter's 10th birthday. I remember looking at my phone, watching him on IG. And he had his family. He was talking about how he had sold out theaters. And I'm like, man, wow. And, I'm a hater. But I had nothing but love and respect for David A. Arnold. And I'm like, man, he's in his 50s. He's been going at it 25, 27 years. He's finally starting to pop. If he can do it, I can do it. I got time. And I went to sleep like calm. And then I did the number one thing you should never do. When I woke up, I immediately grabbed my phone and went to Instagram. David was the first thing I saw when I went to sleep. And when I picked up my phone, it was the first thing I saw. It said, RIP David A. Arnold. My heart sank. Because I'm like, that's not how the story is supposed to go. Like, the story is not supposed to be you rise, and right before you about to is over with. And that has stayed with me to this day. And I think the biggest thing I hate about it is that the world at large won't get to know David A. Arnold the way that David A. Arnold would have deserved. I think about his wife, I think about his kids, Julie and the girls. And it's just like, sucks, really sucks. So that's my number 4. And I'll close it out. Say my number 5 is a young man by the name of Ali Sadiq.
Oh,
that's my number 5. That's my number 5. Absolutely. And the thing about Ali, this is why podcasts are so incredible. I first learned about Ali Sadiq, I feel like almost 10 years ago. It maybe not that long, but maybe 7 years ago when he did Joel Byers' podcast, Hot Breath. He did an episode on Hot Breath. I feel like he did too. But the first one, when I heard his jail story, and I'm like, oh man, this dude he's dope. So I just kind of followed his rise, right? And then he did This Is Not Happening, where he told Mexican got boots.
Yeah,
that's the one that blew him up.
That's the one. Hey, that story still gets me. Yeah,
that's the one. And now to see what he's done really on his own, how he has taken it. In comedy, stand-up comedy has always been independent, but he's really put a stamp on it as independent stand-up comedian. Yeah. So to see how he's moving, and again, there's someone who's been doing it for some time, and now in his early 50s, he's really like he's blowing up. It kind of reminds me about David A. Arnold, when I'm like, okay, I got time. Just put the work in. But I would say those 3 people in that order have been the most influential comedic voices on me in totality.
I love it, dog. I love it. I want to get into the goal of the show, the reason why I do this, which is philanthropy, garnering support from the audience and putting it towards a charity or nonprofit that you care about. What charity or nonprofit would you like to spotlight today? Give a shout out to, and why is the Positive Faces so important to you?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go with, not the one-on-one.
I give full screen.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Boys and Girls Club of South Alabama. And
Sure.
the reason I'm going with Boys and Girls Club, when I was in college, the young bruhs on the
Yeah.
yard, I participated in Boys and Girls Club.
Mhm.
And it's actually one of the things that still eats at me today because I wasn't a good big brother.
Mhm.
I had my own hiccups, my own things that I was dealing with, and I wasn't there for the young man the way I would have wanted to have been. And funny enough, he's grown up now. He went to JSU, same college. He lived in the area, but he went to JSU. He's doing well now. I think he's studying medicine. I wish I could say I had a part in that, right? But uh, the Boys and Girls Club, being South Alabama, that's where I'm from, Mobile originally. I want to eventually be able to not just send people to that platform, but eventually be able to be a real face and a pillar in that community. And because that's something that just it still haunts me. It's like unfinished business. Um, so that's why it's my selection.
Amen. Amen. Well, you will get that opportunity. You will be a pillar in that community. I'm speaking that over you, and hopefully those who are underneath the sound of our voices, they are inspired by your story, by your words, to not only uh check out your content and your stand-up, but also to donate the time, energy, and effort to the Boys and Girls Club in South Alabama. Dog, I want to say thank you so much for joining me this evening. Before we close out, though, we like to leave with words of wisdom for the next generation. So I want to ask you, what words of wisdom would you have for someone who is literally someone who's at that point in their story where, because I know someone right now who is at this point in their story where they're transitioning from football and going into being a firefighter. What words of wisdom would you have for that person?
Take everything that you've learned as a football player right into being a firefighter. Because even though firefighting is not a sport, the environment is very much still the same. Is team building. You have to rely on uh, your teammate to make the right tackle, make the right play, make the right catch. Well, it's even more important as a firefighter to um, rely on the other person to do their job because lives are depending on it. So don't be that guy. That would be my number one. Don't be that guy. Don't be the guy who's the weakest link who puts everybody else at risk. And as long as that guy or gal goes in with all the enthusiasm and hope, and they stay focused, they stay locked in, and they become a student of the craft of firefighting, EMT, they'll be perfectly fine. But everything that they did well in football, just take it right over into being a firefighter, and can't go wrong.
Amen to that one. Amen to that one. Tim, I want to say thank you so much for sitting with me this evening. I'm speaking nothing but life, peace, and blessings over you as you continue to move forward. When's the next time that somebody can come support you, come watch the show? When's the short stroke? What's going on? When can we when and where?
So we're March 26th. We'll be in Birmingham at True True Story. Yeah, True Story Brewery. March 26th, and then that's the Thursday, and then the following weekend, April 4th, we'll be in Mobile, Alabama at the Crescent Theater. It'll be my first theater. I'll be headlining, and we're trying to sell out the second. We're trying to sell out Mobile so we can have a second show. And I think I shot Short Stroker, the mini special, in November, and it came out really well. But I said, you know what? We need to keep playing with this, maybe extend it to 45 minutes because this could potentially save lives. This could help a lot of people. So the goal is to shoot the actual special in Mobile April 4th. So that's what we're shooting for.
Awesome. All right. So, hey, We know what to do. And once so everybody gets a chance to watch this and listen to this, then they will in fact be in that audience, man. Thank you again for sitting down with me this evening. Team, root to the good brothers.
Yeah, dog.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
no problem. Thank y'all so much for joining me this evening for a frank conversation. It was an amazing interview that I just had. That's an amazing guest to have. You guys, make sure you guys check out his content, check out his stand up. Alabama, y'all got one. Do you understand me? You guys got one. Um, and I would hope that anybody, any of our fans that are out there, they will in fact show him some love and be in that audience. Tune in next Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another amazing conversation that we'll be having right here on the United Front Network. Uh, yeah, man. I'm Ezel Moon, and I'm not doing it unless it's fun and it helps people. Peace.